Hello. Welcome to the Newbie in High School tournaments. And here I have, I'm Pranali, for those of you who haven't met me, and I have Jerry here with me.
Hello.
And Andy as well.
Hello.
All right, so I guess let's get right into it with Absolutely versus Jail as our first match. And it seems like, okay. Our first match is on Pyramid Raiders.
Yeah, so Pyramid Raiders, hopefully we don't see any teams wandering off into that rubble abyss there, since those units are not coming back once they leave the pyramid. Yeah, there.
And
Oh,
I'm
both people. Oh dear. So Jail very confused and wandering off into the wrong direction. Absolutely, on the other hand, actually navigating the paths of this pyramid, except for that one Sage and Miner. And now just with quite a few Sages in the middle here, while Jail's troops have finally realized they need to run back in. I believe this is not a round one match for the person who asked that in Twitch chat. Maybe Jerry or Pranali can verify this for me.
What was that?
Is this a round one match? This is further down, right?
Oh, we are starting stream from round two. So the stream we're starting from round two, and you can find the entire bracket for the stream in the Discord channel. So the entire bracket has been posted there.
I can also post
it there as well.
Yeah, I'll post it in the Twitch chat too for anybody watching.
Yes, so there the bracket has been posted there. Yeah, so this map is Fisherman. So it looks like some guy on a boat.
Absolutely crowding those Sages into those little rubble enclosures. A little amusing to watch. And we see first contact between the two teams over this wall. Absolutely, actually stealing the lead inside of the sun there, and finally chased out. And this thing is not going to matter. Just going to rush Sages across the wall. Where's the tree here? I don't quite see the tree.
I'm also trying to see how this is a tree.
Maybe it's like the top of a tree.
Yeah, maybe.
With the rubble.
This looks like a you know those little paper shurikens you can make with origami. But absolutely taking this at 3-0 with a very strong stage rush strategy, demonstrating some very strong pathfinding and strategical prowess here.
Next, we have ControlZ. This is Die Tungsten.
Yeah, I think Die Tungsten we saw in the last tournament for the US qualifiers. So we'll see if anything has changed since then.
Yeah, actually, we've seen a lot of these teams earlier.
ControlZ summoning quite a few troops, and it looks like there's a blockage, possibly a bug, I would assume, or maybe a strategy. Those soldiers crowded around the Archon, and the Archon just unable to spawn anything until those left. Actually, ControlZ taking the lead here, rushing in soldiers across this pyramid. Although if they don't win here, that is a very big lead farm accumulating for Die Tungsten.
And that's a good lab place too.
Yeah, although building watchtowers, I am instantly on ControlZ's side, but also their Archon is completely jammed here. It can't spawn any new units with all of those troops crowded around it. An unfortunate strategy oversight here by ControlZ. And I think Die Tungsten might be able to take a comeback here unless they clear up these Archon positions for ControlZ to start spawning new units.
Yeah, ControlZ really looked like it was doing well, but
And we hit a tiebreaker actually there. I didn't catch who won. It looks like Die Tungsten won.
yeah, Die Tungsten. I think.
And now back on Fisherman. This map with 3 Archons in contrast to one, also slightly of a larger map. But ControlZ, possibly going to get really hurt by this rubble here. We saw last match, they got really trapped in that rubble and that ended up just being a comeback for Die Tungsten. Rounds were progressing pretty quickly. We see a little impasse here in the middle.
Yeah, that wall in the middle is proving hard for both teams.
Yeah, and it looks like Die Tungsten really building up a force here. We'll either take it off of a tiebreaker if it goes to 2000, or going to have to be rushed down by ControlZ in order for the other outcome. ControlZ seemingly having a little bit of trouble with pathfinding. Lots of these soldiers seem jammed on each other.
Yeah, too bad, because other than that, they seem to be doing quite well.
And an incredible strategy here, rushing down each of the Archons, and actually Die Tungsten, even though they have stages, not able to defend. So ControlZ taking the second match and making it a 1-1 tie. Interesting. So Die Tungsten, I believe, was actually in the US qualifiers, but ControlZ showing that they're actually a very strong team here with their strategy. And already rushing towards Die Tungsten's Archon with a wave of soldiers, just taking it out. And now on a new map, this one called Defenseless. I made this map myself. It is a bit of a troll map, but there is a vortex incoming. And now both Archons on very high rubble and with no base to defend itself. Unfortunately, neither team utilizing the little preview that got sent to them, and ControlZ just taking advantage while both Archons are on high rubble and winning 3-1. ControlZ progressing in the bracket.
Now we have Fubar versus Daniel. Starting again on Pyramid Raiders.
So both teams raiding the pyramid and sort of moving out here. I think Daniel only spawning miners, an interesting strategy, but really going to suffer for that. Fubar with soldiers just going to overpower all of those miners and just eliminate the Archon. And now on to Fisherman. You see that little miner from Daniel sort of glitching out and a little confused as to what to do, not able to get into the lead. And
yeah, that's a tough lead
miners.
deposit.
Yeah, 5 miners all dancing around it. Fubar, on the other hand, is rushing down those Archons, and those soldiers are behind the Archons and not actually defending. I think trapped outside of that high rubble area, and Fubar just navigating this rubble much better and taking the second game. Perhaps Daniel can strike back now that they're on a low rubble map here where there aren't really these enclosures.
Yeah, those first two lines rubble maps are proving to be quite hard for some pathfinding.
Yeah, but Fubar, regardless, taking the third map here, showing that they still can overpower on the low rubble map and taking this at 3-0. Congratulations.
And we have Hassan versus IH8 Java.
Yeah, and I think both of these teams we saw in the US qualifiers as well. I don't remember if they actually played each other though, but if they did, here we have a rematch. Hozon actually just stuck in the rubble and finally finds their way back into the pyramid.
But we see they're doing a lot of farming there. Maybe that'll pan out for them
Hozon,
late game.
I think both teams actually farming here. We see the clash of 2 farming teams, I believe. But Hozon's farm seems to be a little bit more developed here, but
IH8 Java has all of the sages.
Yeah, and a much more powerful force. If this force can find its way over to Hozon's farm, that farm will be completely nuked.
Yeah, and then they could take that over. But those sages are having a hard time.
Yeah, I think Hozon, if I remember correctly, was the one recreating map test small in the US qualifying tournament. Maybe we'll see something similar here as the match falls on, but they're sort of trapped in their enclosure here, and IHA Java has all the lead in the world.
Yeah, and this was gonna go to tiebreak, but looks like it'll go to IHA Java over gold.
Yeah, IHA Java with more lead able to produce more gold and
Yes.
taking the map. Also, it looked like Hozon would have won that match if they actually didn't cash in on a bunch of stages. I think the gold graph looking a little unusual there.
Well, I think the stages also count towards gold count.
Ah, okay, that would make more sense then. Now, Hozon chipping away at all of the Archons, and IHA Java just not able to accelerate and produce their stages. Hozon tying it up 1-1. We have a question. Is it all newbie, then all high school? I believe that is correct, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
And Hozon with a very good farm here, and IHA Java with a smaller farm of their own, but not really able to force their way into Hozon's farm. Hozon now with sages because of all the lead they have. And IHA
Oh, and
Java
that
just,
sage rush is going to be hard
Yeah.
to defend.
Hozon with a very impressive offense, just rushing it. Let's see how both teams react to defenseless. If they don't move those Archons will be trapped under rubble in about 100 rounds, and neither team is moving Archons. So both Archons going to be trapped under the rubble. Hozon finally realizing to budge their Archons out, while IHA Java not moving their Archons but instead upgrading them.
And that's a watchtower down. Andy, you would be proud.
I am quite proud, and the Watchtower did not actually contribute to the offense, but it gave moral support, and Hozon taking the set 3-1. Congratulations.
Now we're on to our second round, I believe, of jail versus name is required.
We are in the losers bracket now. So remember that the newbie tournament is also a double elimination tournament. So we are now in the second losers round in the losers bracket. So definitely you can lose one game, but you can still have another chance at sort of keeping it coming.
Yeah, jail we saw last time not really able to navigate this map. Looks like their navigation worked a little better this time, but name is required, just rushing in a force of soldiers and taking out jail before they could even cash in on the lead.
Yeah, that was a dominant game by name is required. That was quick.
Yeah, maybe on a larger map here where there isn't a more of a direct path between the Archons, jail will be able to accelerate a bit better. Looks like lots of those
that
miners.
Archon doesn't have any defense.
Yeah,
That was
and
rough
we
for
see
jail.
name is required with the surround the Archon with the builder strategy. So going to be hard to kill those Archons. You see the soldiers actually trying to hit the Archons, finally decide to target the builders instead. Probably a smart idea, but finally
losing
able
those
to bring
two
in.
Archons early was quite unfortunate, but looks like they'll come back.
Yeah, name is required, spending a bit too many resources on those builders, and jail just able to rush in with a big wave of soldiers and win off of sheer force there. And now name is required, killing all the miners and just very swiftly eliminating the Archon of jail and taking the third match. Now on to defenses. We've seen some very interesting things happen here.
Yeah, name is required is really winning these games fast. Looks like their initial rush is quite strong, but let's see if they can hold off.
But yeah, name is required with more troops out here and neither team moving their Archons. So both teams are very slow to produce any troops as a result, and jail taking advantage of that and able to hit the Archons outside of the rubble. Tying it 2-2, a very close set here in the losers bracket. The winner will be able to proceed in the tournament, and here on a new map, Stingray, we'll see who's eliminated. And we already see a skirmish off here in the top side. Jail getting the better of it for now, but name is required, striking back and now pushing towards it. That's a very big lead deposit that's been created for name is required as a result of the fighting. If they can send there a few miners there, yeah, already eliminating that bottom Archon, those soldiers crowding over the gold, so it won't be able to be picked up. And now just mobbing it. Jail being eliminated and name is required, moving on to the tournament. Congratulations to name is required.
That was a close set though. And we have the return of Die Tungsten versus Rolled Salt.
And back on Pyramid Raiders, Die Tungsten struggling with this map a little last time, I believe. Although lots of teams sort of struggling with the navigation in the pyramid here. And really getting trapped in these enclosures. I believe they've upgraded their Archon there on the left.
Oh yeah. There's a lot of fighting in the middle, but it's tough to get across that central area. Looks like Die Tungsten has done it though.
Yep, Die Tungsten taking control of the pyramid and taking control of the map. Now, those teams sending a few miners out to explore the fisherman's world here. A few others trapped in the fish's tail. And both teams sort of staying on their own side here and getting into a little bit of a fight in the middle. Die Tungsten getting the better of the fight and now sort of trying to rush over.
You say fisher's tail. I'm interested. I actually didn't see the fish here. Where's the fish in this map?
There's a big fish in the boat. Head down, tail
Oh,
up.
that's a tail.
Oh,
I see
Yes.
now.
whoa, that's crazy.
I was trying to figure out what that was.
Yeah, that is a giant fish. Was originally a bit better in the art, but then I realized I needed to make the actual enclosure an enclosure. So the fish being a little
It is a rather
wider.
large fish.
Yeah, as you can see, we have a lot of fun with our maps. Draw a lot of pictures.
I still haven't figured out where the tree is on this map though. Looks like whoever taking control first is really taking advantage of this map and ending the game quickly. And see again, Die Tungsten winning the set 3-0 off of 3 very fast games.
Daniel versus Eyes.
Looks like a bit more of a. Looks like both teams sort of staying in their own area. The Eyes exploring all the way upwards, although there's not really much to be found there. I guess they sort of got the signal now that there's the enemy troops on the left, so all of their soldiers going across that way now.
Yeah, I think one miner discovered Daniel's Archon.
Yeah,
Daniel with a lot of miners there though.
a lot of miners, but also all pretty locked in, all stuck
Yeah.
by that enclosure and unable to get out.
And
It
now
looks
they
like-
finally found their way out and taking over.
Taking over the center of the Eyes.
And on to Fisherman. Oh, and Eyes has discovered that first Archon. Let's see if they can take it.
Oh. Both teams are also trying to find their way inside the lead inside that sun over there, but both are just sort of doing circles around it because there's actually no way in.
Yeah.
Now, I guess that's why we got to have the dynamic thresholding for what we consider to be impassable. But I guess Daniel has taken this game. Onto the mysterious tree again, which I guess we'll eventually figure out where the tree in this is.
Yeah, help us out for people watching. Oh, and Daniel taking it very quickly.
Wow. Daniel take this one 3-0.
And we have the return of IH8 Java versus Fried Shrimps.
IH8 Java with some early miners heading out into the center. Fried Shrimps with their soldiers just going up into the void. But soldiers coming back, having seen the enemy, knowing where they want to go. Now it's IH8 Java sending their soldiers up. Both teams definitely very clustered within their own area. It looks like IH8 Java's pathfinding around the outside of the pyramid. Because it definitely looks like some sort of pathfinding, because they're sort of surrounding the pyramid. But
Yeah, let's see if they can get around though.
it's definitely a lot
This might-
slower to go around the outside, but I guess it works.
Yeah, they got around. We'll see if that pathfinding comes into play later though.
Yep.
And fried shrimps, it seems like their builders are healing that Archon, but that Archon isn't taking any damage.
Yeah, I guess. Well, if the builder doesn't have anything better to do, then may as well do some healing, I guess.
I guess so.
And I
And,
Java really expanding down the bottom of that map.
and one of those first teams to break into that jail of lead, so good for them.
Yeah. They've taken both of them actually. Bright sun up there. Definitely really filling in the map now.
Yeah.
That is an enormous swarm of soldiers. I'm surprised they're even able to move. And once again, the person bringing out more soldiers with their miners here is sort of taking advantage of this map. And we see the builder strategy once again on the right side. Oh, they're making a farm. Oh, well, looks like they end the game very quickly either way, but farm
Yeah,
as the
fried
backup plan.
shrimps with the victory there could try to reverse sweep this.
Yeah, and especially if they're able to move out their Archons or utilize a farm better here, they would take the advantage, but no, getting caught under the rubble and ultimately getting defeated by H8 Java.
And wow, that was a close set going to 3-2 in the end. Okay, and we're back to Die Tungsten versus Name is Required. And here we start on Stingray for this next round.
It's exciting to see some new maps here. Stingray we saw, I think, only one time, right?
Yes, we are now in the third losers round. So have two rounds in a losers bracket for every round in the winners bracket.
A little funny interaction we see here. The red soldiers reaching the Archon, but not being able to whittle it down because the builders are healing it.
Yeah, and in the meantime, Name is Required, able to amass quite the
Wow.
army.
An amazing strategy by Name is Required here. Those builders saving both Archons and then just immediately sweeping through all the forces of Die Tungsten.
Wow, that was quite the game. And here we see the return of Defenseless.
Yeah, and in Defenseless, I do there is a little bit of a vortex at the start to warn the teams what's coming. No teams yet actually using that information though. And now Name is Required is really trapped on this rubble. And I don't know if that farm was made by Die Tungsten intentionally, but lots of lead there. Losing an Archon. If they're able to defend though, Name is Required taking the match here.
Ooh, and a new map here with Galaxy.
Interesting. We've seen lots of very strong defenses if you're able to hide behind a rubble wall. And here, both teams hidden behind a rubble wall, teams are going to really have to try to build up a huge force before pushing down an Archon with this rubble. A very interesting map. Die Tungsten going for laboratories, maybe going to grab an advantage if they can build enough sages.
Yeah, we've definitely seen less Sage play this round than qualifying. Also less moving Archons, so that'll be interesting to see how it develops.
Yeah, really interesting. Very few teams, I think only a few teams moving Archons and only to avoid rubble. We see Sage is trying to push in here, but again, it's really hard to fight the areas where there's a high rubble wall. People on lower rubble really taking advantage of that. And in an enclosed space, the person with the Archon is going to be the victor.
Yeah, Die Tungsten losing all their sages. Name is Required. Oh no, Die
Oh, and
Tungsten's still
hitting
able to take
round
it.
2000. So Name is Required, building a very strong defense, but ultimately not able to contest the tiebreaker because they had no labs. Here, we see Die Tungsten moving their Archons to lower rubble. Name is Required, unfortunately, not realizing that those Archons are very high rubble and this is really giving Die Tungsten an advantage as they can produce more soldiers.
And we see this fifth map very quickly here with Seagull.
What are the dimensions of defenseless is asked in the chat. I can find that out for you, but at first, this is a 2-2 tiebreaker. So very exciting. Winner of this match is going to take the set, and already losing an Archon perhaps? Die Tungsten losing an Archon, and now their second one is being rushed. It's been discovered, and no way to defend against that big wave of soldiers. Name is required. Taking the set in a jaw fighting, is that the phrase? In a butt clenching 3-2. Congratulations to moving on.
And we see IH8 Java versus Daniel.
By the way, defenseless is 40/31.
So perhaps some teams in the chat changing their strategies based on the dimensions, or maybe performance on different dimensions of chat, dimensions of the map. And now we see very interesting skirmish going on here. Lots of miners in the front line, and actually being able to rush down a very concentrated wave of soldiers. Daniel taking the first map. But once again, on this map, person to move the Archons is very much advantaged. And interesting, we saw a farm for a second, and then all the miners just destroyed everything.
I mean, I guess it worked out.
Yeah, so Daniel taking the second map, and here farming sure to be a very strong strategy. Daniel already starting a farm, but snapping up the gold immediately. I wonder what the logic behind that is. Maybe they just go for a temporary burst of lead.
Wait, exactly
Daniel just
20
taking
rounds.
all of the farm that IHA Java is producing. Through IHA Java sacrificing builders to make a farm, and Daniel just rushing in a few miners and stealing all of the lead. But in that high rubble, not easy to defend, not easy to take away the lead anymore now that they're sages. And those sages doing a loop, I believe. They're just running in a circle, perhaps just waiting for more sages to be built up so they can cross the wall. Very interesting formation. You see all the soldiers just running in circles here.
Yeah, I wonder if it's a problem with their pathfinding, though. It doesn't look like they're...
I think maybe it has to do with avoiding having units next to each other, so they stay in like a cycle so that they can spawn new units easily. I'm not so sure, but going to a tiebreaker here, IHA Java taking the match because of their gold production. And here, let's see if either team moves their Archons. It looks like neither team is looking to move Archons. So those Archons will be in high rubble all game, and one Archon going down already, now the second going down, and the third discovered. IHA Java, a very swift victory.
IHA Java going for that reverse sweep those last two games. Let's see if they can take it on Seagull.
And if they take this game, we're going to have our first reverse sweep, and that'd be quite exciting. So,
ooh, IHA Java just getting some off of that bottom defenseless Archon.
Yeah, but Daniel making a farm now, but IHA Java with their miners just gonna start taking away all the lead produced by Daniel. Sort of Daniel forking over this lead, not able to defend, and IHA Java looking like they want to reverse sweep and actually pulling it off. Congratulations to IHA Java in a very strong reverse sweep with taking the set 3-2.
And now we have Absolutely versus ControlZ.
And once again, we see ControlZ making a farm already, but Absolutely in the
Those
meanwhile, yeah, building up a lot of sages, and ControlZ has no soldiers. Well, very few soldiers. They're sort of just running in individually and dying. So that farm not going to be useful if there's nothing to defend it. And we see Absolutely making their own farm and just rushing in with sages. And on this map, we've seen generally team that moves their Archon is really advantaged, but farming teams not really incentivized to move their Archons away from their farm. Let's see if either team does it. Looks like absolutely doing it for one Archon, now doing it for the second. And taking the map.
Absolutely, with that Sage Rush strategy is just hard to beat.
Yeah, and I mean, all those sages can just use Fury to whittle down the Archon, and if there isn't a defense, then those sages will just eliminate the Archon very swiftly. Let's see if something similar happens here. In order to get in range to do the Fury, you're going to have to be on that high rubble, which will be disadvantageous. Maybe ControlZ can build up a defense here. The meanwhile, I think ControlZ is out of lead. Now they finally have a bit of lead, but a little too late.
Yeah, absolutely, with that farming strategy, getting a lot of lead, able to make many sages, and takes it in 3-0.
Yeah, absolutely, with a very strong offense and a very strong economy, just taking all 3 matches. Congratulations.
We have Fubar versus Hozon.
Yes, I think we pronounced Hozon a different way every tournament, every round.
Yeah, we
So,
really don't know how to pronounce this.
at the same time, we've given them chances to clarify the pronunciation, and they've, not really given us any information in chat. So,
Yeah,
Our mispronunciation is perfectly justified.
and wow, Fubar taking it quickly. Hassan trying to build up that farm, but not able to get enough.
And let's see if either team moves their Archons here. Once again, a very defining part of this map. And it looks like after the swap, Hozon getting ready to move the Archons, but too late. As
Fubar
Fubar
just not giving them any time.
So Fubar, a very prime moment to attack. I wonder if that was a planned moment to attack or if it was coincidental, but still a very impressive performance by Fubar. But Hozon getting that middle lead and now making a very strong farm. Fubar's forces were scattered about.
And Hozon with a sage or a lab.
Yeah,
some
and now
sages.
Sage is being produced with soldiers. If Hozon can rush down a force here, but Fubar has soldiers of their own. This is not going to be an easy fight. Lots of those are miners that are up in the front line, so grabbing
Some watchtowers as well.
Yeah, and Hozon with their watchtowers. I think
Hozon's gonna be tough to beat.
yeah,
It
and
seems to
planting
be
those
sending a
watchtowers.
lot of units in.
And those watchtowers doing a lot of work actually. But now those watchtowers, some of them on high rubble, but a very strong curtain of watchtowers and sages just pushing down Fubar's base and making it hard for Fubar taking a match.
Yeah, Hozon trying to copy IHA Java and doing this reverse sweep.
I mean, the strategy is just to win matches, so teams just need to win matches. So I don't see what. Hozon, the only one to move their Archons here, going to probably give them a big advantage. Fubar trying to steal the lead, the enemy farm, but no soldiers to defend. And Hozon losing an Archon actually. And wow, that was very fast. Fubar with force of soldiers just eliminating Hozon's Archons and taking the set.
And ControlZ versus IHA Java. And
And
yeah, we saw that watchtower wall. Those watchtowers are really useful in these higher rubble areas because I believe they have higher vision than simple soldiers.
Yeah, so doesn't have to walk as far up to strike and able to sort of hold a position there.
Oh, well, IHA Java saved this Archon. This will be an amazing comeback if they do.
Oh, wow. Yeah, they do have builders healing it up. So now that Archon not so low in health anymore, and ControlZ, no forces to defend their own Archons after their rush. Not able to grab the lead of the dead soldiers, and now IHA Java taking all that lead and turning it into their own forces, taking this map 1-0.
Wow, IHA Java, definitely the king of comebacks over here.
Yeah, really showing that they not only come back in matches, but come back in the set as well, as we saw. And now onto the high rubble areas. Neither team moving their Archons off, but ControlZ sneaking out a few more soldiers before the rubble strikes and eliminating the Archon very swiftly. Now onto Galaxy. We've received quite a few tiebreakers on this map. I wonder if either team, if they can produce some gold, will just win off the tiebreaker, or if they'll be rushed down before that.
Yeah, it seems like ControlZ is definitely rushing a lot at the beginning. Let's see if IHA Java can survive again.
Yeah, both teams making a farm for themselves, but I think ControlZ's farm a little bigger, and now IHA Java, ControlZ taking a very disadvantageous fight. Those soldiers from IHA Java on low rubble, and 3 soldiers can probably take out like 6 or 7 on low rubble. So now rushing in a wave of sages, and even if they don't get through here, they do have the tiebreaker to fall back on.
Yeah, it looks like this one will go to IHA Java.
And ControlZ, a big farm, but nothing to mine it out. So IHA Java taking the map.
Here again, let's see if either team chooses to move their Archons. And it seems like the answer will be no. ControlZ already losing 2 Archons.
Yeah, and immediately losing the third too. IHA Java is showing a very strong rush here and taking the set 3-1. Now to Hozon or however you pronounce that versus name is required. Hozon showing a pretty dominant start here, already hitting one of the Archons, but that Archon just being killed by like 4 or 5 builders, and all of a sudden the builder sacrificed for lead.
Taking some damage though there.
Yeah, Hozon a pretty big farm there, and if they're able to defend this farm, it will be an easy victory with the economy they get as a result, already eliminating an Archon and now moving to the second. And now, I mean, both teams get a little preview of what's going to happen, so they know the rubble is coming. No team so far reacting to it. Hozon already turning their
Oh, and Hozon moving off. But, oh yes. And able to take it.
Hozon moving off the rubble there and able to summon up more soldiers. Oh.
Oops.
Somebody saw that.
You guys didn't see that.
This match probably going to be a close one. We have seen many tiebreakers here, so maybe we'll see another tiebreaker. Hozon making a very strong farm, and name is required. Lots of those soldiers trapped on the rubble, and if they get attacked, they will not be able to fight well. And Hozon down with a laboratory already, and actually 3 soldiers almost eliminating the Archon from the side here. Name is required, having a lot of trouble defending. And now that watchtowers and sages are moving in, only going to have more. Name is required. Unfortunately, fighting on the high rubble there, maybe if the soldiers backed up 2 steps, the fight would be a profitable one. But it is the benefit of sages and watchtowers having actually a pretty strong comeback here. Actually, name is required, pushing back, but unfortunately, the tiebreaker is approaching, and they have no gold.
That was quite a defense by name is required though.
Yeah, name is required, really fighting a losing battle and winning it, but ultimately the tiebreaker coming in clutch for Hozon and giving them the tiebreaker from the gold. Hozon winning the set 3-0. Although the final score was 5-0, so even if that tiebreaker didn't happen, it seems like it would have gone in Hozon's way. Now, IHA Java versus Hozon. Which part of the bracket are we in?
Yeah, that's a good question.
You are now in round 5 of the losers bracket. And
round
what
the losers
bracket?
And how many rounds do we have?
There are 6 rounds in a losers bracket. So the team that makes it to round 6 of the losers bracket, well, the team that wins in round 6 of the losers bracket will advance to the final tournament, which will be here in so advance to the final round of the Newbie tournament, which will be held at our finals here at MIT. So you need to win in round 6 of the losers bracket, or in the upcoming next round, actually, in the winners bracket.
Yeah, so winner of this round goes to the finals of the losers bracket, I think is a correct statement. And Hozon taking the first match off of a very fast rush, but now that bottom Archon being whittled down just by a few soldiers and nothing to defend it. New soldiers being summoned, but immediately destroyed. but they do have a very strong farm coming in for themselves on the left side. If they're able to utilize this greater lead count, maybe going to take an advantage.
And Hozon looking to move those Archons, but seems like they might lose one in the process. Let's
Looks
see
like
if
they've
those
summoned
builders
up a
can.
few builders actually.
Yeah. Let's see if they can hold. Looks like they did.
Yeah,
So
really
that could.
interesting. They
Ye-
didn't move the Archons until like halfway through the match. I wonder what the reasoning is on that in the code.
Yeah, but that could be very useful for them. They managed to fight off those soldiers and may just have been the turns they needed to take the match.
Yeah, Hozon going close to death with two Archons in the bottom, but ultimately defending them and pushing back in the map. Now looking to take the set here and advance to the losers bracket finals if they're able to take this match. IHA Java trying to pull off the miracle again and pull back another reverse sweep. Hozon though already hitting the right Archon. Not able to take it yet, but I believe IHA Java
Was able to heal one up before. Let's see if they can do it again.
Yeah, Hozon, a very strong farm in the bottom left and the bottom right. Maybe if IHA Java can sort of steal a bit of that farm, they'll be able to revitalize. Oh, building a watchtower in range of the Archon. And now Hozon taking a very swift victory on both sides of the map.
Yes,
taking
that farm.
So congratulations to Hozon for advancing to the losers bracket finals. In this map, we've seen some pretty fast matches on it, and we already see that left Archon being attacked, but defended, a bunch of miners sort of dancing around the Archon, and now an counterattack by Absolutely taking out one Archon and now taking control of the left side. I think they've also upgraded an Archon and now eliminate the second. Absolutely taking the first map here against Fubar. And now, Absolutely, the first one to move their Archons here and really benefiting off of it. One Archon down already for Fubar, and now a second down, and now the third. A big Sage Rush coming in for Absolutely and just sweeping this map apart. Now looking to take this entire set if they can win this game.
And absolutely one of the few teams today that we've seen really using that Sage Rush strategy.
Yeah, a lot of teams using a Soldier Miner Rush, which is a very stark contrast to what we saw in the US qualifiers. Wonder what prompted this change, as a lot of these teams are teams that participated in both.
And also note that this is the finals of the winners bracket, which means that whichever team wins this match will be in the top two teams of the newbie tournament.
Yeah, and it looks like Absolutely already eliminated one Archon, now taking out the second. Absolutely going to advance to the finals of the newbie tournament, taking the set 3-0. A dominating performance by Absolutely. We'll see if a team can rise up to challenge them in the winners bracket on some new maps. And now on to Fubar versus Hozon. I believe this is the finals of the losers bracket. So winner of this set will advance to the finals of the entire tournament and face Absolutely, seeing if they can strike back. Meanwhile, already attacking that bottom right Archon, but more miners than soldiers, so not able to deal any damage or fight back. Hozon actually moving their Archon into this very fortified location, but doesn't matter. Fubar rushing in a wave of soldiers and taking out the Archons. And now we return to Fishermen. Fishermen, we've generally seen quite a few people just rushing across the center as soon as they build a force large enough. Maybe we'll see something similar here.
And Hozon able to take that lead, that might be the difference here.
Yeah,
but looks like they're really struggling with this attack.
Yeah, and if they can, and Fishermen a very hard map to attack on, so Hozon really benefiting from that lead farm in the long run, and now putting in watchtowers and sages and advancing towards the other side, eliminating two Archons and now taking out the third. Hozon tying it 1-1 and a very close set so far.
Now we're seeing Turtle for the first time, I believe.
And now that bottom right Archon discovered, and now the top right Archon discovered as well for Hozon, it's going to be very hard for them to defend this lead farm they're trying to build up. But they have sages down already. Maybe they can strike back after losing their first Archon.
Yeah, if they can just
so-
defend that Archon, and with that huge lead farm, they might have enough.
Yeah, a huge fight going on at the head of the turtle, and now one Archon down and a huge lead farm in Hozon's way. The turtle has turned upside down, but it won't matter. That Archon eliminated by Hozon. Hozon with a comeback victory here after losing one Archon. An extremely close set, and now we're back on defenseless. Once again, person to move their Archon to the low rubble, very strong advantage. Fubar with more troops down, maybe just going to rush down the Archons before they can leave, and yeah, exactly what happens. Fubar taking the match and tying it up 2-2. Winner of this 5th game is going to go on to the finals of the entire tournament. And now onto a new map, Monument. We'll see who can take control. Generally, Hozon performing better on these slower maps. Maybe this map will be benefiting Fubar. If Hozon can defend this farm, though, this is going to turn out really well for them. And it looks like they are defending this farm.
Yeah, but Hozon immediately on the defensive. It's gonna be
Hozon with a huge
defense for a
lead
while for them.
too. Those miners trying to sneak in and snap up a bit of that farm, and they are succeeding, but Hozon now accelerating their development. And Fubar with very few soldiers, only 5 soldiers down. Hozon with 16. A
And
4-to-1
Hozon with
ratio.
a couple of sages, this could turn it.
Yeah, and Fubar now really struggling. Each of those soldiers are going to have to take out 5 of the opponent to win, but it won't matter. Hozon rushing in, and even on a small map, able to barely defend that lead farm at the start and hold on to their lead. Taking the set 3-2. Congratulations to Hozon for advancing to the winners finals, where they can face Absolutely.
Yes, so congratulations to our newbie tournament participants. And so we'll be looking forward to watching the final match, Absolutely versus Hozon, live at the final tournament, which will actually be held next week. So next Saturday, the 5th of February. So now we'll be moving on to the high school tournament. So the high school tournament consists of all of our teams with high school students. And so we'll be streaming the high school tournament starting from round 3 of the winners bracket. This is also a double elimination tournament, and we'll be playing the final match at the final tournament as well. So we'll be starting from round 3 of the winners bracket. The bracket for this is in Discord, and we'll throw a copy into the Twitch chat as well. But without further ado, let's get started with the first match in round 3. So that's IDRC, perhaps that's I don't really care, versus null pointer exception.
Yeah, IDRC may be the precursor to JDK, more like IDK, that showed up previously, but moving their Archon very aggressively to the center of this map and surrounding it with sages. Losing their lab in the process, though, so having to build a new lab in the middle. But
Yeah, those stages are going to be hard to defend, though.
Yeah, they have like the upper 2/3 of the pyramid in their grasp, and no pointer exception with no defenses here. And those sages just hitting the Archon over the wall and taking the map. So now onto pyramid. Maybe with these new maps, we can see some new interactions between these teams.
Yeah, and let's see if no pointer exception able to mine that. That's might be an advantage, but that's Sage Rush.
Yeah, IDRC moving their Archons up very aggressively, ignoring the high rubble and able to rush into sages. A very aggressive strategy from IDRC.
We're back to the mysterious tree.
Yes, onto the mysterious tree. Nobody's quite figured out what kind of tree this is yet. IDRC.
And again, we see IDRC moving up that Archon and able to take it very quickly.
Yeah, IDRC blitzing through these first 3 matches and completely dominating. Maybe we'll see this team match up against some new teams and see how their strategy goes on. Now we have Last Spring versus that team. Not really sure what the 2 S's in Last Spring indicates. Maybe it's something symbolic. And both teams summoning up a builder and a laboratory in tow.
Yeah, those builders exploring the abyss, but they're not going to find much.
Yeah, looks like unlike the high school, unlike the newbie tournament, Sage is really dominating the high school tournament. I wonder what's different. And now miners wandering around looking for lead, but finding gold instead and going to take those gold and convert them to their own sages. Last spring with a very strong force of sages and soldiers here.
Yeah, those low level soldiers are kind of clogging up that space, but it seems like they might still be able to pull off the attack.
Yeah, and those sages can just snipe the Archon over the wall. And last spring with a dominating start here, taking the first match. And now last spring sneaking in some miners to steal from the sun on the map. And it looks like they have some better sage macro going on here, perhaps. Those sages actually able to force their way through the high rubble, even though they're at a disadvantage. And now swarming as soon as an Archon has been discovered. Able to just snipe the Archons with the Fury anomaly over these walls, and just going to take the second map as well. And now, wow, that was a very swift victory. Last spring, winning by round 440 and taking the set. It does seem as if these matches have been lasting a tiny bit longer than the ones we saw at US Quals and the newbie tournament. So maybe we see some different strategies going on here. JT3 versus Fish on the other hand. And both teams immediately summoning a builder, but for different purposes. Fish looking to make a farm, but JT3 looking to make laboratories and already discovering the Archon of Fish. I think those sages used the Abyss anomaly, right? Those lead piles shrunk abnormally.
Yeah, I think so.
I am proud using the mechanics of the game.
Yeah, it's a great way to fight those farms, though. They didn't really have much to do there.
Yeah, so for those unaware, if sages use Abyss, all lead around them goes and reduces by 99%. So basically just nukes the enemy farm if you can sneak a sage in there. No team's actually using this anomaly yet until now. And now just going to whittle down those Archons and take the map. JT3 taking the second map as well.
Looking dominant with this sage strategy.
Yeah, sage strategy is really dominating the high school tournament. I wonder what's different between these two tournaments, since not very many sages in the newbie one. And immediately taking the third map as well. JT3 going to advance in the bracket.
Now we have Snorlax versus capricious cacti. Yeah, we're already seeing a lab down. So again, maybe a sage strategy from cacti.
Yeah, it looks like both teams are going to make sages here. Unfortunately, Snorlax losing sages into that rubble. So unless those sages can get back, you see them immediately destroyed since they're unready on the rubble. Going to be very swiftly destroyed. And capricious cacti taking the first match.
Yeah, let's see if Snorlax can do more on this map where pathfinding might be a little easier.
And these Archons, they look defended since they're in enclosures, but actually really undefended since you can usually just hit the Archons over the wall. Snorlax moving their Archons to a better area and actually just going to rush in a very large force of sages here.
Yeah, and Snorlax really able to mine those suns to really get a lot.
Yeah, and I wonder, the sages just crowding around the Archon, wonder if there's an error in the logic that's preventing them from using Fury, or if they're just taunting the opponent. But either way, Snorlax is going to take this match.
Yeah.
That poor Archon. surrounded. by-
unfortunate.
Yeah, wait, those sages are just destroying each other, actually. I think they're using charge in. What? Did they all
What
resign on the
happened
last
there?
turn? Snorlax BMing a little, seeing that they're gonna win anyways, and then just destroying all of their sages as a BM. Snorlax got destroyed the first map, but completely just destroying capricious cacti and BMing them at the very end. Let's see if that happens again in another match. Snorlax, maybe not so many good manners here going on.
Or a bug. We'll see what happens.
Or it's a bug, but I find it hard to believe that RC dot this what is it like? What's the command for destroying boss? I know it's RC dot resign for resigning, but yeah, once again we see these sages just BMing the opponent.
Wow.
Snorlax, what are these manners? Yeah, capricious cacti's Archon really not able to do anything. If it's surrounded, I believe the Archon is not actually able to summon any troops of itself, since it can't spawn a unit in a place with units already. That Archon, even if it had lead and gold, which it doesn't, wouldn't be able to do anything just since it's surrounded. And once again, Snorlax just BMing the opponent. Maybe we can see capricious cacti fight back on defenseless, but Snorlax historically moving their Archons forward is going to take an advantage on this map, I would assume. And both teams are sages down already. Neither team moving their Archons actually, but Snorlax has more troops out, and this will favor them. And let's see the BM again. Snorlax demonstrating that their code does more than good strategies. And Snorlax taking the set 3-1, losing the first map and then BMing all three other ones. And now on to no pointer exception versus Pineapple. No pointer exception, losing lots of their units to the void, or rather to outside of the pyramid. And this is really helping Pineapple. I mean, those units not inside the pyramid, losing out on lots of lead as they're out there. And a very big lead farm being built in the middle.
There is quite the battle in the middle, though.
Yeah, and
No
it's
pointer
like,
exception if they can just defend there. Looks like they've lost it, though.
yeah, a very smart strategy. Lots of teams have been using this, but sending in a force of both soldiers and miners so that you can pick up the lead after the soldiers have been killed and replenish your soldiers naturally. Teams have been doing that, and really Pineapple forcing their way in and taking up all the lead while no pointer exception not really able to do the same. Maybe something different will happen here. Once again, we see a skirmish in the middle of the map. Person to grab that lead will take an advantage in the lead.
No pointer exception. Looks like they were getting ahead there, but
Yeah, but now Pineapple
fighting
mounting a
back, yeah.
very fierce defense. And Pineapple, you see they have control of the suns. No pointer exceptions, miners dancing around those lead deposits. And Pineapple really going to benefit from all of the map control they have here.
That really looks like it'll be the difference there, those lead.
Yeah, Pineapple and no pointer exception with pure soldier miner strategies. Maybe we'll see how these can match up on different maps to the stage strategies that we saw in the other rounds.
Yeah, these two teams have put up quite the fight against each other.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, it's gone.
No pointer exception. The very big brawl going on in the middle. Natural lead deposits aren't really going to matter between these two teams, since whoever's grabbing this lead in the middle just snowballs their lead. And we've seen this 3 times. Pineapple, the winner all 3 times and taking the set 3-0. And actually,
wow.
final score being 3-2. So if no pointer exception took one of those 3 matches, they would have won the entire set. A very close set then. And that team versus Ecos, maybe we'll see something similar.
Oh, and that team is spawning sages quickly, and looks like
But
Ecos
that
has a
lab is
laboratory down too.
That lab is in a terrible spot though. I believe that's like 90 rubble. So
Oh yeah, that's unfortunate.
yeah, just not able to produce any gold and unfortunately being rushed down by that team. Maybe if it spawns the lab on a better place here, we can see a bit more of a contest. Builder sort of dancing around, trying to find a place to put down the lab, I would assume, but really not finding anywhere. Meanwhile, that team has already put down 2 labs. I'm not sure if there may be a glitch in the builder logic or if they just deemed that they don't have enough lead yet, but Icto's not spawning any sages or lavatories to defend themselves, and that team taking the lead here.
And here in this set, we're seeing the return of the sage strategy as opposed to the miners and soldiers from last set.
Yeah, and Eco's not spawning any builders. I wonder if their strategy changes based on the map size. But that team just taking the 3rd map as well with a very strong sage rush here. So
That team winning the set 3-0.
Yeah, exactly. And on to Fish versus Walt Whitman's Yawp. I don't know what that stands for. And we see Fish making a lead farm. Unfortunately, lead farming not as dominating of a strategy on this map since it is very easy to hit that Archon over the wall. And it's very direct of a path between the 2 Archons.
It's true. Fish
But
looking to
Whitman
have
a
a
little-
little bit of trouble putting everyone around. I think, was Fish the one who went all the way around last game?
I don't remember, but Fish is having a bit of trouble with this rubble, trying to expand a farm, but ultimately, because of the high rubble on the left side, not able to expand that farm very well and sort of having an adventure outside of the pyramid. On the other hand,
Still looking to be
the
doing well
watchtowers.
with those watchtowers and stages, though.
yeah, those
Watchtowers
watchtowers
are red.
moving forwards, but Whitman putting up a very good fight. They have a laboratory down, but I think that laboratory is on too high rubble to produce any more than 1 or 2 sages.
Fish really taking over the map.
Yeah, and going to win off of a tiebreaker, having more gold. I don't see. Oh, they put down labs. So actually, if they didn't manage to put down those labs, Whitman would have taken back a very big comeback victory here. But ultimately, Fish covering that win condition and not being blindsided by the
Fish
tiebreaker.
also, Fish also had a lot of sages, right? So that
Yeah,
would have
Fish-
kind of value as well.
Yeah,
Builder making a quick dash to the left. Wondering what they're trying to do with that builder.
there's miners kind of sneaking in and maybe scouting or looking for lead.
That builder does seem to be used as a scout because it definitely just did just go and take a very big ride around the entire map.
Yeah, Builder's a very cheap unit for scouting.
And
That is
both teams struggling to break into those suns.
But now Fish accumulating quite a big offense here. It's going to be very difficult for Walt Whitman to defend. And those sages using charge but not fury, so those watchtowers completely unaffected, but it looks like it won't matter. Fish taking the map.
Yeah, and I'm sure Andy's happy to see this watchtower strategy. He's been waiting for it all tournament.
That is true. After seeing that very first map test mall where people moved in waves of watchtowers, been waiting for it, but Walt Whitman defending with 4 watchtowers here, actually. But unless those watchtowers are actually advancing, just going to lose out on lead here since they're not really defending a big lead deposit. But I mean, completely impenetrable, making a checkerboard of watchtowers here so that their units can move around.
Yeah, this is an interesting strategy, not one we've seen before by Walt Whitman.
Yeah, Walt Whitman building up a very strong defense here, but Fish has an extreme economy lead on the other side of the map. Maybe, I don't think Fish
Making their own
utilizes...
farm, though, so we can so perhaps their farm can be quite powerful if they're able
Yeah,
to
I don't think Fish utilizes the Fury anomaly either. So those sages not going to be doing very much against the watchtowers. And you see, even though they have this huge lesser disadvantage, they're holding on to defense somehow. And it goes to a tiebreaker where Fish wins because of their lavatories.
That was quite the defense, though. I'd be interested to see that defense again.
Yeah, Walt Whitman, very, very strong defense, but unfortunately not covering that win condition. And they actually do take one match eventually in the best of 5. But Fish ultimately going to win 3-0.
Now we have the cacti back against Team Simon.
the
Cacti quickly able to take over with the sages.
Yeah, and using Fury to eliminate the Archons. And Fisherman, a map where we've seen whoever builds up a Jan force and mobs the opponent will win. So let's see who's able to do that first. Looks like Cacti is taking the lead, but that force is a little too small to cross the rubble. Actually forcing their way through though. And going to eliminate one Archon, now 2 and now 3. Cacti with a very early rush here. And we're back to the mysterious tree. Both teams very close in lead production, but Simon with more troops and now with more lead. Cacti not making it easy though. While their lab was still alive, produced quite a bit of gold, and those sages turning the tide of the battle. And with more soldiers now, eliminating the enemy Archon. Cacti taking this at 3-0. And now we have that team versus Pineapple. Yeah, seems like we have a lot of food names here. I'd be curious to know what inspires them. I guess Pineapple and Cacti, relatives in their team naming theme, both spiky plants.
Would you think the cacti are food as well?
They can be eaten, right? I mean, they require like some preparation.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, but that team showing they're not really scared of the pineapples here and just rushing in a course of sages.
Interesting that they're using the sage attack instead of the sage anomaly on the Archon there.
Yeah, a little less efficient than the Fury, but I guess it's safer since we have seen quite a few Archon suicides due to Sage Furies in past tournaments. If the Sage is not coded properly, can accidentally kill their own Archons.
That team able to quickly get sages off.
And now onto the high rubble. One of those laboratories caught underneath the high rubble, but neither team moving their Archons out. Going to end up hurting both teams here. And now
that team able to steal some lead from Pineapple.
Yeah, that team taking advantage of the skirmish. If you can only produce one soldier at a time, producing sages one at a time will be much more efficient than producing soldiers one at a time. And those Archons caught on high rubble going to benefit the Sage team here. So that team taking the second match, looking to close out the set 3-0. Maybe Pineapple can fight back and take a match here. They have taken control of the center lead deposit. Looks like that team might be using miners to scout potentially. Those miners advancing very far up. And those sages just getting killed by soldiers since they're stuck on high rubble and not really able to retreat. Sages using sort of a hit and run tactic, but not able to use it if you're on high rubble.
Yeah, I think that when you're on a high rubble like that, when the sage was supposed to get 20 turns worth of cooldown, I think that rubble would, I don't actually remember how much it is if you could put your mouse over that, but that's 50 rubble. So your 20 turns of cooldown is suddenly 100.
Yeah, and really going to hurt the sages, especially with the high action cooldown already, but that team taking this at 3-0 regardless. Now we have the cacti versus the fish. One maybe food and one definitely food. Fish moving an Archon already to a low rubble area.
Fish should be at home with the Stingray map though.
But I mean, the turns fish spend moving their Archons is going to hurt their early game mining here when they're not able to produce troops. And now cacti with that extra time has produced sages. If fish can hold off here, they do have a very strong farm. So this sage defense here, if they're able to stop the sages, but now the sage is just taking over the Archon.
There's a lot of miners there, but not much to defend with.
Yeah, and lots of miners, but very few soldiers, not able to defend against the sages ultimately. So cacti taking the first match. And now we go on to defenseless, where teams are defended for about 100 rounds before they're suddenly not so defended.
Fish using this time to build up that farm.
Yeah, and Cacti immediately rushing down the Archons at a very inconvenient time for Fish. Fish, those Archons cannot escape, and Cacti taking the second map as well.
Yeah, we saw that once before, and it seems like quite a good strategy. If the other team might be moving their Archons, just go ahead and rush them.
Yeah, it's extremely hard to defend Archons on high rubble. Those Archons can't just spawn units in to save themselves. And if they don't have units in tow waiting behind, those Archons are going to fall very swiftly. Cacti mounting an offense, but they are on high rubble. If Fish can catch them out here, those Sages will die, but those Sages manage to escape. Except for 2 of them, which over approached a little bit, overextended, and those Sages died immediately. Now Fish really accelerating their farming strategy here, and Capricious Cacti, very little lead for them to utilize to turn into gold. A little bit of a
Fish really
skirmish.
taking over this map.
Yeah, and unless Cacti can grab onto some of these lead deposits that are being made, they're going to run out of forces eventually, while Fish is just going to constantly renew their forces. So maybe those Sages are a bit more effective than the standard soldier, but when facing mobs of soldiers over and over, those Sages will eventually fall. They are holding on due to the low rubble advantage here, though. So the Sages sort of rotating. You see some Sages in the front using charges, immediately retreating, and then coming back when the charge is back available. But now Watchtowers moving in. Those Sages actually using Fury, but going to kill their own Archon while trying to kill the Watchtowers. We have our first Archon suicide. Cacti trying to defend with Fury, but ending up with a double-edged sword here, not realizing that they're hurting their own Archon. And Fish, maybe unintentionally, moving in a Watchtower to doom Cacti's defense.
Still, looked like Fish was taking that last one over.
Yeah, so mark that square off your bingo boards, everybody playing bingo. And now Cacti trying to force in some Sages, but being defeated. Somehow Fish defending, but now with no more soldiers, Cacti now just nuking these Archons with Fury and taking the set 3-1. Now we have Last Spring versus IDRC. Both very strong teams, and IDRC with their Sage Rush strategy not working yet because Last Spring has built up a few Sages of their own. The Sages looking to cross that choke in that wall and finally succeeding to do so. Also flanking from the other side and now eliminating the Archon and taking the first map. Now into defenseless. We see IDRC actually moving their Archons, probably not to avoid the rubble, but to position offensively. Regardless, going to dodge this rubble. And now this will be a huge advantage if they can hold on for a second. And it looks like holding on they are doing. Did somebody just use the Abyss? I think somebody just used the Abyss enhancement there to nuke the lead. And yeah, I mean, that the Archons out of the rubble, while is pretty close early on, Last Spring immediately loses their lead. Unfortunately, no code to avoid the rubble, nor move out of it once it's caught underneath. And once again, we see IDRC moving their Archons up very offensively. Both team with Sages down. Looks like we'll get a little fight in the middle of this donut galaxy. And IDRC getting the better of the skirmish, and now they're trying to move in over these walls. And Last Spring with very little defense, a few Sages and soldiers left behind, but most of them
do have the lower rubble.
Yeah,
Still,
on the
pretty
lower
hard for
rubble
them to
ground here, but
defend.
those Sages very low health, and they're just gonna get bopped, I believe. 45 damage per hit, and now Fury takes out the Archon. IDRC taking the set 3-0 with a dominating performance. Now we have JT3 versus Snorlax. Snorlax, the team that was doing the BMing. Let's see if they can repeat their success from the early round here, or is JT3 going to put up a bit more of a fight? Snorlax already moving in with Sages. Well, JT3 does have their own Sages, but positioned much more defensively. And far fewer Sages too. Snorlax with 12 to the 9 of JT3. And also JT3 Sages at lower health, not so close to their home Archons. Looks like Snorlax taking the advantage here with their Sage Micro and just collapsing onto that last Archon. Looks like we'll see some RC self-destruct here as soon as we've hit round 2000. I wonder if we're ever going to see Snorlax just cover the map in Sages with this strategy.
I mean, I'd say it's not much of a strategy, but
I would have to agree. Yeah, not so much of a strategy, but both teams immediately putting down laboratories. JT3 is a little bit more isolated, I believe, and now setting down a second. Both teams counter the Rubble, but Snorlax isn't moving their Archons. JT3 already turning theirs to portable, and they're losing a few turns, but immediately spawning a wave of Sages, and Snorlax not able to do this because their Archons caught under the Rubble, finally turning one to portable mode, but going to take way too many turns. And for some reason, the Archons turning to portable, then turning back to normal mode must be a bug.
JT3 choosing to use that attack though, which may have put them a couple rounds behind, but it should be enough.
Yeah, and Snorlax ending up losing this match. I think those interesting. Let's see what goes on in Galaxy here. A very defensive map, and we've reached tiebreaker multiple times on this map. Perhaps we'll see something similar going on with the Sage Rush strategies of both teams. And Snorlax is the first one to move these Sages over, but JT3 taking control of the center of this map now. And they are on lower Rubble, so their Sages will win an extended fight. And when the extended fight they did, now they're moving in towards the Archon. Snorlax trying to sneak in through the bottom side there, but not enough Sages to push through. But JT3 trying to cross the Rubble and not being able to because of the Rubble difference. Ultimately, Snorlax has no miners to pick up the gold and no more resources to defend. JT3 taking the third match and bringing it 2-1. I wonder how Snorlax decides when BMing is acceptable, because surely if there's only one Archon left, and we've seen them doing it even when the Archon's on tied, what if the other team has just accumulated a stack of gold? Wouldn't Snorlax just lose off of the gold condition?
Honestly, that would be very interesting.
That
But I
would
guess
be a
they have
really
so
funny
many
fight.
Sages, it's very hard to do.
That's true. And now we see Snorlax is going to take this fourth match, and now we've tied it up 2-2. Winner of this match will be taking the set, and on to Seagull. JT3, I think, maybe I missaw, but I thought their Archon went to portable for a split second and then turned it back to normal. I wonder what the logic is there.
Interesting.
Building quite a force of soldiers here, and Snorlax is not able to get enough lead to make Sages. So JT3 going to be the first one to strike, taking down the right Archon and now taking out the left Archon. JT3 taking the set 3-2 and winning the set. And now we have Last Spring versus Capricious Cacti. The cacti that are capricious are not yet producing, are a little slow on the sage production here. Last spring, with a force of sages. And if these sages can force their way over, this game will be very swiftly over.
Yeah, it looks like they're able to get over that little bit of a choke and should be able to take that area. Looks like it's definitely going Last Spring's way.
Yeah, Last Spring using Fury to whittle down this Archon now and just going to take the first game. Now on to defenseless. Let's see if either teams move their Archons here. We have seen moving the Archons very strong if you're able to hold off for a short period of time. It looks like neither team is moving their Archon though. And we're going to be seeing a very accelerated game. Capricious Cacti, their forces have the better micro, it seems, and just eliminate last spring's sages, tying it up 1-1. And now we see both teams setting down laboratories and sages. Whoever uses the rubble better here will be taking the advantage, and both teams just fighting on high rubble, but capricious cacti using it better just a little and going to whittle down these sages to very low health.
Yeah, cacti going around, which is a good strategy that we haven't seen much.
Yeah, but now
still got fought off.
Yeah, but cacti trying to push through the high rubble and ultimately getting fought off, and they are fighting a losing battle here. Even though they're defending, they're sitting on the high rubble, and their sages will lose this fight.
Yeah, choosing to fight off of that high rubble is going to cost them a lot.
Yeah, and even though that was a very even fight in numbers, it was not an even fight in outcome. Last spring getting much the better of that fight, and now has a huge sage advantage. If they can just push off this rubble wall, now they're just going to take the Archon with Furies. So last spring taking the third match.
This has been a close matchup though.
Yeah, last spring actually moving their Archons. So you see both Archons going into portable, definitely going to sacrifice a bit of their early game. But now that those Archons are off, if they can grab on to a stable economy here, they're going to just win off of pure numbers. And 2 Archons down already, now looking to eliminate the third. Last spring going to take this set 3-1.
Oh, and wow, that one did go to a close one of 3-2 in the end, but last spring takes it. Now we have Snorlax versus that team.
I believe this is in the losers bracket. I don't know what part of the bracket this is, but I think we're pretty close towards the end of the bracket.
Yeah. Jerry, can we get a bracket update?
We have a request that
Snorlax versus that team, which is losers round 6. So losers round 6, which means whichever team wins in losers round 8 advances to the final round of the high school tournament.
I see. We are getting a request. If last spring qualifies for finals, somebody wishes to Blair Speak Now by Taylor Swift for the entirety of the finals tournament. I am not sure if we can satisfy that, but maybe Jerry has something else to say here.
I guess we shall consider it, and then we will let you know the outcomes of our considerations.
And we are receiving lots of angry messages in chat for Snorlax's BMing. Perhaps we'll see some karma here, as Snorlax is going to have to win this set in order to advance. That team taking the lead in the first match, and now taking the lead here too. Snorlax going to find it very hard to defend with those Archons covered up in rubble. Managing to hold off the defense, but this is just going to grow. Oh, sorry, other way around. That team finding it very hard to defend, and Snorlax taking out the enemy Archons with their sages. And now we're seeing the repeat here with Snorlax crowding sages around the enemy rubble. And Snorlax taking the second game, tying it up 1-1. Winners here will go to the finals. So this is a very important set. And that team, first one to reach the lead, and you see that lead ballooning in their favor if they can hold on to this lead lead, maybe going to benefit them lots. But now they're cashing in on the lead. I think converting all of that to gold, they have a very strong gold lead right now and much more sages. But as we've seen, you don't need resources to win this map if you can hold a strong defense. And Snorlax holding the strong defense from the low rubble standpoint, may be able to defend here, though those sages are numbered 1 to 10. But still just barely able to defend for a second. But now that team forcing in a blanket of sages and going to take the Archon. We have a message that the Snorlax was going to spell out a cool message, but it was buggy. So instead, they are just crowding around the enemy Archon since they're scared to change their code too much. acceptable reason for the BM.
Yes,
But now
yes.
Snorlax immediately dominating.
And I'll just actually take this one forward.
Yeah, so this round going to last for another 1,200 rounds. And now we are on to the next map. Tying it up
So
2-2.
this tiebreaker match determining the set between Snorlax and that team.
Yeah, and we see a very close early game here. That team almost taking out the lab and finally taking out the laboratory. I mean, Snorlax taking out the laboratory. But that team already has Sages down while Snorlax hasn't even set down a laboratory. And they're able to defend that team with the Archon at around half health, holding off. And now Snorlax finally sets down the lab. But the lead is all in that team's favor now. Now Snorlax just going to have to try to hold on to that right side, but there's nothing to defend it. There's one builder doing a funny dance in the top right, but that team going to take the set 3-2. Congratulations to that team to moving on to the finals. And now we have that team versus last spring, both very strong teams. And both teams, I believe, a Sage Rush team, if I remember correctly. Last spring, a bit more offensive on their gold production here.
Yeah, already having Sages out.
And looks like last spring will take the first game here. Quite a few Sages down.
Looks like last spring is trying to move out those Archons.
And now a laboratory put in quite the exposed position for that team. If last spring can sort of sneak in and take it out, but looks like it won't matter. The lead lead ballooning in last spring's favor. And now those Sages going to use Fury. Last spring taking the first match. And now last spring, the first one to put down Sages, that team building the laboratory finally, but they're a little slow on the lead production, on the gold production here, finally making some gold for themselves, but Sages have been set down already by last spring.
Yeah, last spring is just winning this on early Sages.
Yeah, and unfortunately, this map, very difficult to defend your Archon. The Sage is able to just strike it with Fury at a long range. And now last spring, taking the second match. Are they it's taking the third match, sorry. And taking the set 3-0. Last spring, winning the finals. Congratulations. Oh, not the finals. Wait, where in the winner's bracket are we? I thought that was the finals.
I don't think we're in a winner's bracket. That was the penultimate match of the losers bracket. But now we're on the winner's bracket. IDRC versus JT3. That is our final. That is the finals of the winner bracket, also known as a semi-final.
Confused. And
Okay, so whoever wins here goes to the finals. Is that correct?
Yes, whoever wins this one will be advancing to the final round of the high school tournament.
Very exciting.
yes, so apologies for the confusion. Now IDRC, once again, showing a very dominating performance and already winning with a Sage Rush here by round 393.
And IDRC moving these Archons. JT3 doing so as well. So see if either team can get the advantage on there.
Yeah, moving Archon's possibly going to really hurt them if they do have to move on to a high rubble area. And JT3 taking the match. IDRC moving their Archons, but not moving the one that was stuck on high rubble. An interesting oversight there, perhaps. And now, if IDRC tries to advance their Archons offensively on this map, they may get punished for it if those Archons do end up sitting on high rubble. But perhaps they will end up helping in their offense eventually.
Oh, IDRC moving them together. Let's see if they
also in a
can
very
launch a
great
strong defense
position.
from there.
Yeah, very good spot to leave your Archons. So
Yeah. Being discovered by that blue miner though, so
Yeah, but looks like it might not matter here. Sage is already pushing in on the right side, and they've discovered that Archon, I believe. And now they're going to just hit the Archon instead of using, oh, actually using Fury. They're weaving in and out of range of it. And that Archon going to get chipped down eventually by the Furies.
Yes, and there you go.
Now JT3 looking to defend this second Archon, but there is quite the force of Sages. And looks like it's now been discovered. All the Sages collapsing on that Archon. IDRC taking the third match. And now back onto Fisherman.
So if IDRC wins this one, they will be going to the finals. But JT3 can still make this if they win the next 2 in a row. It looks like they've already, yep. Yeah, so JT3
IDRC moving those Archons together, but putting them in a little bit of an exposed place. Let's see if this works out for them. Able to take that first Archon though. IDRC looking strong.
Yeah, IDRC showing a very dominant performance throughout the entire tournament. Now looking to grab this third Archon. That Archon not in a great place to defend itself. Any soldiers that spawn stuck in the rubble while the Sages can just snipe it from the other side. And now IDRC eliminating all the Archons and taking this at 3-1. Congratulations to IDRC for advancing to the finals. And is this the last match we're running? JT3 versus Last Spring? I believe this is the losers bracket finals, if I am correct. Maybe I'm spreading a bit more misinformation once again.
Yeah, I think that's correct. And giving JT3 a chance to redeem themselves. But Jerry, feel free to correct us if we're wrong.
Yeah, this map, Diamond, a pretty interesting map. You see the very circular shape of it, leaving two Archons very close to each other and they're very prone to attacks. No natural rubble to defend yourselves here. And we see that with Last Spring immediately wiping out one of the Archons from JT3 and now looking to snipe the second.
All right, JT3 taking out an Archon and taking this first match. See if Last Spring can put up more of a defense on Fisherman.
And this map, pretty high rubble, but if the Archons themselves, even though surrounded in high rubble, not well defended in any sense. Neither team moving their Archons, so first one to push past this barrier will probably balloon their lead. But we do have a very strong skirmish going on here. Most of the lead ending up on JT3's side though. But JT3 not sending miners to pick it up. Last Spring going to take advantage of all of the remains from the battle and going to accelerate their lead, able to finally push past this wall and probably going to take out all the Archons now.
Yeah, and Last Spring quietly mining those suns to get quite the lead advantage here to use on these Sages.
And Last Spring showing that this game is not going to be easy for JT3, tying it up 1-1. And now we move on to Turtle. I just realized that there are little lead things in the turtle eyes. I like that.
Yeah, I do like my map. This is mine.
Yes, it is a very nice map. The Sages now meeting each other in the middle. Interesting. I believe one of the Sages from JT3 already used its attack. And now you see that one Sage from Last Spring able to hold off quite a few Sages on itself. And Last Spring, maybe with a more coordinated defense here, a big grouping of Sages moving downwards, but losing the bottom fight and possibly going to lose this Archon, but looks like reinforcements have arrived and they're able to hold off the fight. Now all of that gold is theirs to take. And I don't know
Last
what's going on
Spring,
with
if they
that builder
discover that
dance in the top. A not so social distance to gathering of builders going on in the top right. None of them really doing anything productive. Not
Yeah, don't
healing
even
the
seem to be
injured Archon.
healing that Archon, but it won't matter. Last Spring looks to be taking this.
Yeah, Last Spring taking the third match here, 2-1.
So Last Spring only needs one more match to go into the finals and set themselves up for a match against IDRC.
A very close set, and once again, first one to move their Archons here, if they're able to hold off, will take an advantage on this map. both teams putting their laboratories in very safe locations. And we see JT3, the first one to move, it looks like last spring, not going to move their Archons. But if they can build up enough lead and rush JT3, in the meanwhile, they will take the lead. Last spring, winning the fight dominatingly, but not pushing forwards until they see an Archon. Now pushing forwards, going to try to eliminate these Archons and sniping both Archons with Fury. Those Furies extra effective because the two Archons are next to each other. And Last Spring taking the set 3-1. Congratulations to Last Spring for winning 3-1 and a very close set from JT3. Final score 3-2. If JT3 was able to edge out one of those games, they would have won the set. And congratulations to both teams for making it this far.
Yes. And so I think that concludes the high school tournament as well. We have our high school finalists who'll be going into the final round for IDRC versus Last Spring. And once again, congratulations to all of our participants so far. And so that concludes mainly our high school tournament. From here, we would like to announce that our final tournament will still be happening. There happens to be actually a snowstorm coming in to hit Boston this Saturday. So we might not actually be able to run our final tournament on this Saturday, but we have pushed it back 1 week. So our final tournament will be held here at MIT on the evening of Saturday, the 5th of February. So if everyone wants to tune in if everyone can tune in onto Twitch at 7 p.m. on the 5th of February, we'll be streaming all of our tournaments, the final tournament, as well as the last rounds of the newbie and high school tournaments.
And we do have a question in chat here from Last Spring. They just found out that they're moving on and the finals are next week. Do they have time to update their bot for the high school tourney?
We can definitely discuss this further in the Discord, but as of right now, submissions, all of our final submissions have already closed. But yes, it has been a very exciting time to meet everyone in this January, and we certainly hope you've had fun. We've definitely had a lot of fun watching your bots and streaming all of these matches for you, and we're looking forward to meeting a lot of our finalists teams in person. And it's been a lot of fun, and we are really looking forward to seeing you again next year, where we'll be having Battlecode 2023 very soon around the corner. But in the meantime, definitely stay tuned and come through for the final tournament, which will be on the 5th of February. So with that, thank you everyone for coming along.